Hi, this is Patty D. Priest, and welcome to Educate Academy, brought to you by the Kentucky Academy of Technology Education. Today we're going to look at grading in Google Classroom, but before we do that, I wanted to show you how to set up your notifications. So you're going to come up here to the three lines, and you're going to click and go all the way down till you get to Settings. Once you're there, you can turn your notifications by email on or off. So when I turn it off, all of that goes away. When I turn it on, then I can come down and customize my notifications by turning each one of these switches on or off. They default to on. Notice down at the bottom it says class notifications, and you can turn off notifications by the class. Another thing over here that I wanted to mention is archiving. When you have classes in Google Classroom, we'll come up here, and you're no longer using that class, you can come up here and choose the class, and you can go to the three dots and archive it. When you archive it, it takes it out of your active classes and archives it where you can still get to it. You can still see the information, but you can no longer change or modify the information that's there. And that's the same for students. To actually see the archived classrooms, you're going to go to the three lines, come all the way down to the bottom, not quite as far as Settings, but really close, and click on Archive Classes. And if you notice, this is the class I just archived, and so all the classes look a little different because they have this kind of mesh over the picture, makes it look a little different. That way you know you're in an archive class, but I can go click on the title of the class, I can open it, I can see the information, and so on and so forth. It is archived. Notice down at the bottom it tells me I can restore it. So I can click on Restore, and that will open the class back up to where I can add and make changes to it. Now you can still come in here when you're creating new assignments in your other classrooms. You can still come in here and reuse them. Just because they're archived does not mean that they're gone. But when they are archived, and I guess I should have stayed there, I'll go back in for a second, click here, and I can actually delete. So I can actually come here, click Delete, and it's going to actually let me delete that class, which means it's no longer going to be in Google Drive. I'm not going to be able to access it. I can't get to those assignments. And so getting back to our class, and we're going to come into the new Google Classroom, and we're going to talk about grading. There is a new tool in Google Classroom that was not there before all the updates were made at the end of the summer, which is called the Grading and Feedback tool. If you click on an assignment as a teacher, and I can come up here and I can click on any of these numbers, and it's going to show me stuff that has been turned in. Notice on the left hand side I can see all students. I can change this. I can sort status here, but I like to see the ones that are turned in first. That way I don't have to go looking for them, and then I will see ones that are missing. Now if they had already started to work on this assignment and had created a file, I would actually be able to click on down here and see their actual work. I could actually access it, and I can actually go in, if it's a Google Doc, I can go in and actually add comments and feedback to them as they're working on their project. So that's a really neat feature of Google Classroom. So up here with grading, you'll notice that these people have turned it in, and it's giving them, doesn't have a point yet. A couple of them say they're late, and I did put in a date to have it turned in, but that wasn't a firm date. The actual firm date is actually in November. In your classroom, it might mean more than it does here. So if I want to look at a student's work, notice I can see all their files here. I can also click on their name, and it will just bring up their files. And so if I go to here, and so on and so forth. All right, so to actually see their work, I can actually click on the file, and this is where it opens the Grading and Feedback tool. In here, I'm going to actually see a picture of their document. I can pretty much edit it and do everything that I want to do with it. I can come over here, I can see they've turned in two different files, and I can switch between one and the other. I can give them a grade, if it's 100 points or 70 points, whatever I want to give, depending on how they've done their assignment. And then over here, if I want to change the total points, maybe I left it as 100 because that was the default, but I want to change it, maybe it's only worth 10 points. And so I can change that here without going back into the assignment and making those changes. I can add private comments here and post them. And it has its own comment bank. And the way this comment bank gets comments in it is by you putting them there. And so all of these things are in here because I added them. All I did was click here to add to the bank, and I started typing. Well, if I press enter or return on my keyboard and start a new sentence, I basically am adding a new comment. So I can put in, 10 or 20 or 100 comments at one time just by typing them in and hitting enter in between my comments. So I'm going to click cancel because I don't have anything to add here. But if I wanted to use a comment, maybe I can say, okay, explain to me what you were thinking when you said, and notice I put those dots. That means the comment is partially done, but it's allowing me to add something to the end. So I can click here. Notice I can copy that comment to the clipboard. I can edit the comment, or I can delete the comment if I no longer want to use it. So I'm going to copy it to the clipboard. I'm going to come out of the comment bank. And if I want this to be a private comment, I can come here, click and paste. Then I can get rid of my little dots there, and I can add the ending to my comment. So it might be when, instead of said, when you added this image. Anyway, I can click post, and it's going to post that to that student. All I have to do now is return the document. Why do you return a document? You return it for two reasons. One, it's to let the student know that you have done something to their document. You do not have to add a grade. I didn't add a grade here, and I can come back and do that. Let's say a student is working on something and you've looked at it and you have some comments you want them to work on. You don't want to give them a grade, even if it's a temporary grade that you might change later. Research has basically shown that once a student gets a grade, they're done with it. Doesn't matter what it is. They don't look at the feedback. They've turned off the assignment. It's time to go on to the next one, and they're not going to learn it. And so if you want them to continue to work on something and learn as they're doing, add the comments, return it to them, and let them return it to you. Alice Keeler says that she has her students, send her a message when they have finished making the changes that she has suggested by doing whatever research they had to do or continuing on the project. She has them send them a message in order to signal to her that she can go back in and look at the document. At least this way you know that the student has said, okay, I'm done with this at this point. It's your turn to take a look at it. So I'm going to click return and click here. It's telling me I didn't give a grade, and so it's returning it to the student. The other reason you return a file, and this is especially important when it's a Google document that they've turned in, is that ownership of that document. When it's turned into me, it becomes my file. It's only a temporary ownership that I have as a teacher, but the student then cannot go in and make changes to that document until I return it. The other thing about returning it is if I am in here and I make any comments, I might highlight this, come over here, click the comment, make some remark. The student is not going to see those comments until I return that document to them. Another nice feature of this grading and feedback tool is that I can click here and I can scroll through my students and I can see who's turned it in, and I can quickly jump from one to the next. And so then I can see, okay, this is what Ashley has turned in. I can look at it. I can come over here and I can give her a grade, add her comment, go to the comment bank if I need to, and return it to her. Then I come over here and I go to the next student. Now, if most of your students are turning them in at the same time, I can also use these left and right arrows. So if I start with the first one, I can then go to the next student, and the next, and the next, and so on. So that is there for you to use. Another thing that I wanted you to notice, one thing I didn't point out is next to the actual document, you see this little box with the arrow in it. If I want to open the document and I want to actually see it in Google Docs, I can click here and I can actually open the document. And so you'll notice that when it opens, if you create the document from within Google Classroom and you go to that create button within the assignment, it puts the student's name at the beginning and the title of the assignment afterwards. Notice that I can go in and do anything. It's now really my document, and I can go in and make comments on it and return this to Julie. With Google Classroom, one of the things I'm not sure that I've mentioned is that every Google Classroom has a calendar. And if I was to open Google Calendars right now, you would see that I can do that. All I have to do is go to calendar.google.com. And over on the left-hand side, it's going to show calendars for my different classes. And so down here, I've got the new Google Classroom. It's not showing right now, so I can click and make that show. And I've got using Google Slides, and I should have my Gmail class in here. Getting started with, that's with Google. Getting to know, there's my Gmail class. So if there's anything in there, notice they can have different colors. So I can come in here and say, hey, I kind of want this one to be purple. I want this one to be, I've already used that blue, I've used that green, maybe that green. Every one of your Google Classrooms is going to have a calendar. Now, if you're not going to use it, you can delete it. So to remove calendar, all I have to do is hover over it and click on the X. And I can come over here and click Remove Calendar. Calendars are nice if you're going to use them, if you're going to, update some things that students are going to see. This is a shared calendar. It's not just for you. It is a calendar that your students will be able to use as well. And so in lieu of a planner, this is a great way for students to look and see what's due, what's coming up. The students can go in, and even you can go in and put reminders of things coming up. Remember to do, be reading your book, or to, you should have started doing this by now as far as this project is concerned, and kind of get them in the habit then of doing it themselves. So if you have any questions about this, feel free to contact me. And other than that, I'll see you online.